Hi,
Hello,
I'm Julian.
I'm Cowboy Tom.
We are Team Binge. We are here to talk about Outer Range Season 2. And this episode was called All the World's a Stage. And just to let you all know, because this show is screaming to its rapid finale, Tom and I watched 5 and 6 together, and we're going to pod about 5 and 6 together. So if you haven't watched both, maybe finish 6 and come back to us, and then we'll do a final pod on the finale. But we are going to cover the pentultimate and the pentultimate episodes in this podcast because this show requires that, I think. Tom, thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. These last couple episodes, I think these two particular I thought started introducing a lot of extra rules that I felt like did not exist in the first season. And to be very late in this season to start introducing, I thought was kind of silly. I thought the writing and even like some of the directing choices were kind of goofy in these. I think actually, I don't know if it's 5 or 6, but I think Josh Brolin actually did direct one of them, which is interesting. But I don't know. I feel like the show is going a little bit too bonkers. It killed one of our favorite characters, which I'm very bummed about, and definitely want to get your 2 cents to talk through. But this really hasn't been kind of like the satisfying build on top of what we've had in season 1 and the first handful of season 2 here. And knowing that this show did not get picked up for a third season, and knowing what we know going into the finale, there's just no way you can get a satisfying conclusion, I think, for this season, let alone the whole series.
Sure.
But what about you? What do you think?
Oh, I loved both of these episodes. I think they're great, flawless. I think Brolin is on his way to winning some sort of Academy Award as a director. So I wholly disagree with you on all parts. Here's where I was at, Tom, and I do think all your criticism is fair. I kept asking myself, what are we still trying to solve? Like, what are still the questions that I have and, like, that the characters ultimately should have as we're going through this? And there were times where characters were asking questions and their motivation, I was like, that's what we're focused on at this point in the story. It's like we find out eventually where Amy is and that she's safe with her mom, and there are like times where Cece and Royal are like, where's Amy? We gotta find Amy. Like, and that's all that matters to them. And it's kind of like, hey, there's a big hole in the pasture that you don't know what it is. And there's a lot of times Royal just says, I don't know, and doesn't seem real curious about what's going on. So I was like, okay, what are we still trying to solve? Like, Joy's back. There's a hole in the West pasture. Our Tillerson family seems to have a propensity to get addicted to space dust. Like, I don't know. It just seemed like we were focused on all the wrong things, and then characters like the pastor and Autumn were coming in hot and cold at different points, where I was like, wait, why? So it just seemed unfocused to me, I guess. And when you say like rules were brought in that change other things, I think that also added to the chaos. But time is chaos, and God broke it when he created humans, I think is what Brolin told me in one of the intros. So
I do like the voiceover. The Brolin voiceovers are pretty good.
Yeah. If you believe in space, sure.
But I feel like they're focusing.
That are marking it on the bingo card, that was my no space reference. Congratulations. Go ahead, Tom.
Just need that flat earther one to get that bingo.
It's a bingo.
I feel they're focusing so much on like the timey-wimey elements and like the visions that all these characters are seeing. So I feel like that's the only real reason they're still trying to find Amy, because they feel something's going to happen to her at like age 9, I guess. But yeah, I'm with you. Like, I just don't love the threads that they're kind of pulling on. I think there's so many other cool things that they could have done from what we finished season 1 on. And I would be very interested to know, like, the playwright, the guy that did season 1, how much he was involved, if at all, because I do think they've kind of gone a little bit too far off the rails.
You don't think You don't think this is how he wrote it? You don't think they're following the outline that he left on his trailer in, I don't know, blood, probably?
It's like a Game of Thrones situation, right? Like, they didn't have any more source material, so they just kind of winged it.
Maybe.
I was hopeful this could be a little more fun, but I very much am enjoying season 1 more more than I have in season 2. Not to say that there aren't good things going on in season 2. There's some still fun elements going on with this show. But I'm not as jazzed for the finale as I had hoped to be.
Sure. This episode 5, starts with Joy has just come through the hole and she has run into Royal. She's wounded. You could tell me she was shot through the heart. You could tell me she's shot in the leg. Based on what's going on here, I have no idea what this wound is. It's a wound that is solved by water and driving, apparently, because those are Royal's remedies. She has a bunch of like memory flashes, and it feels like this show's like, man, people on the internet are gonna really want to like pause and like
Right.
take the time to. Guess what? No one is. I don't think there's a. I would struggle to think there's a Reddit thread really breaking down these visions. So I feel a little bit bad for the showrunners if there is some substance in these, because I was like, okay, got it. She's suffering. Let's move on.
Yeah. I mean, we don't really know. We've seen people go into the hole and then they like the veins of the black dust kind of like goes over their skin and fades away. So I don't know. Maybe it's probably not good on an open wound.
That's fair. Certainly, it's great when it gets into the bloodstream. This also has Cecilia at the same time hallucinating and dreaming, and this went on for a really long time. I was like, oh, thank goodness we're back at... Nope, we're not back in real time. Oh, thank goodness we're back in... Nope. There's a lot to unpack, and quite frankly, Tom, we're not gonna. That's my thoughts on that.
I only wrote down, I'm with you. It went on forever. I mean, there was at one point a vulture just eating Amy on a bed. They had like the judge had a gavel that said "God is gone," which she like kind of screamed and repeated. So I'm sure there's like extra symbolism and unique things that maybe they're trying to set up if they had a season 3, but. Again, this is like with the flashbacks we have from Joy and these hallucinating and dreams. We already had some dreams and stuff from Royal in a previous episode. It's just too heavy on these like visions and not just trying to tell the story of what's going on with our characters at the present.
Sure. And unless Cecilia is snorting space dust, I don't know why she's just so, I guess, under stress because they're going to take her ranch and her house. And that Amy is gone, but we kind of know where Amy is, so... I don't know. In the dream, Autumn buys her house, and she's really upset about that. And I was like, I don't know. She'll turn it into a weird cult commune. She'll probably let you stay if you pay your dues and drink the Kool-Aid, right?
Yeah, for sure. Maybe make it a water park.
Royal stops at a gas station, Tom. And I was literally like, wait, is she not shot? Do we not have cell phones to call 911?
Not Royal.
Got it. We couldn't have pulled over at some point and gotten a hold of someone. Why are we... So he casually goes into the gas station and buys water. And she's bleeding out in the truck. And I found this all preposterous.
I mean, hydration is important, but I had the same exact thought. This is like the first of, I feel like, many in these 2 episodes where they use water as like a big theme. Like Cece is like constantly filling up people's water and they're like doing close-up shots of the tap and the water kind of coming down. It's weird. I don't really know what to read in it, but I feel like they were pointing at it or hinting at it as some sort of cure-all or something. There's something in the water. I don't know what they're trying to do.
Well, is Cecilia having visions because their well water is now tapped with space dust, and so she's taken small hits of it because the Brita filter hasn't been changed in 3 years, which, I've got to change the filter under the sink, Tom. Tom, put a pin in that. Remind me at the end of the podcast. I've got to switch the filters out under the sink.
Definitely won't forget.
Been putting it off for years. I also won't forget. This deputy is also at the gas station, and I only bring him up because honestly, I'd rather just follow his story. He seems pretty tormented by Joy missing. But this was the point in the show where I felt like they had to remind us that Joy is missing, and maybe that is leading to why Royal is hiding her in the car. It also feels like maybe he's got a first aid kit in that deputy vehicle. Maybe Royal could be like, oh, deputy, I have the sheriff here. Don't shoot me. But she needs help.
Right.
Why were we hiding her?
I mean, the only reason, and we get it later, but the only reason seems to be that Joy is not ready to answer any questions. She doesn't know if she wants to tell the truth, if she wants to make up a lie, and if she does want to make up a lie, maybe she doesn't have one yet. I don't know. They really didn't game plan what's going on outside of getting her some water.
Later, when we hear her cover story, she should have taken more time. That's all I have to say, because her cover story was full of meth holes, and I don't know. Any cop's going to see through that. But
Yeah.
I did like that they mentioned that they had to go to the Wind River Reservation, which, if you've ever not seen the movie Wind River with Jeremy Renner, and I think it's Elizabeth Olsen, go watch it. You'll watch it one time. It's incredibly dark and sad, but it's definitely worth a watch.
Agreed.
Cecilia... I believe this is when Cecilia is now at the landing, lying on the floor, wailing like a child. Like, I got it. She's in some distress, but Cecilia's been pretty strong, throughout the show. So I found the toddler tantrum on the floor a little bit surprising. Tom, I'm assuming in this situation you're supposed to hand her goldfish crackers. Is that right? My kids are a little bit older now, but... in this situation with my kids at the age they're at, I hand them cash.
Smart.
They just want dollar bills. Oh man. But Autumn shows up, and it feels like the show's like, hey, when someone is in distress or like someone is in despair, that's when religion or spirituality like works its way in.
Saves the day, baby.
You have this like Autumn's like, hey, come with me, I'll help you. And I was like, all right, I'm kind of interested to see where these two go. Spoilers, it doesn't pay off for me, but whatever. Joy goes to IHS on the reservation. The tribal cops help. I actually thought this was kind of an interesting dynamic of the deputies are not allowed on tribal lands, and the cops use that to their advantage. This all leads to what I found kind of the strangest conversation in the whole episode, which is Autumn takes Cecilia to church. Cecilia follows her in, and Autumn is begging the pastor for money, claiming that like just putting on God is lazy, that there's a bunch of rich people in the congregation that could fork over $500K. We saw that congregation. I don't know that there's $500K just kind of hanging around like
under the bed.
Yeah, in the old collection plate. This I don't know. I found this all very strange, and it leads to Cecilia being like, well, your family's rich, so put your money where your mouth is and you give me the money. And I was like, what lesson are we learning here? Like, who? They're like, essentially, they're like, everyone's a hypocrite. Pastor, you're a hypocrite for not helping. And then Cecilia's like, Autumn, you're a hypocrite for not helping. And it just felt like, I don't know. This all felt strange. And it all led to the pastor yelling at Autumn, which I just felt like that was a little out of nowhere. That pastor, I felt, was relatively reasonable, but now he's screaming at her about being like a false prophet. I don't know. This was weird.
I couldn't help but like think of when the pastor starts screaming back at her. Like, she comes in incredibly hot, and I don't understand why. Like, just have a conversation with the guy. You've had conversations previous, and they were relatively civil, and you got some stuff out of it. But when the pastor starts like screaming at her, saying, "Oh, not all people can be saved," I'm like, oh man, the poor Julian. Like, they're again just the trope of taking a religious person and making them nasty for whatever reason. I don't get it. I don't understand it.
Yeah, and even Cecilia's like, Pastor, that wasn't very Christ-like. And he's like, well, not everyone can be saved. And I'm like, I don't know that's... And I don't know if like stuff has been cut down or pared down, but the pastor is already on Autumn's like kind of false prophet. She's gonna like start a cult. Like he, for some reason, I don't know that we've seen her give him that indication. Like, she visited the old folks home with them. She had some questions about like religion and God and like helping people, and she wasn't like, I don't know, she didn't come on so strong that he's like, when he's like, I see you as like a false prophet, you're like, really? She just She's just, I mean, a common thing. She showed up, she wanted $500,000. I'm pretty sure pastors deal with that all the time. I know I've done it. I've walked into my church and been like, hey, pastor, any way I can get my hands on some $500? But
You don't do that for gambling debts, though.
no, I'm sorry, $500,000. $500 they'll give you. They do like an interest rate, but it's, it is what it is. Or when the collection plate passes by, you can typically just take the 500 out of that. And if you're quick, you don't have to pay interest. This then leads to, okay, two things. The phone numbers are disconnected. We have the sad moment where Autumn doesn't have a family, and you're like, okay, that's a little bit sad, but not necessarily surprising. Right? Because
We get a quick cut to
wasn't
like
she cut off at some other time during the show? Didn't she talk to her mom and she got cut off? Right?
Yeah, I had thought so. I thought that was something that we kind of saw at the end of season 1, but like the only name she had in her call list was her mom, the pharmacy, a doctor, and then Sierra Rivers, which I don't know. This is a new character, right? Like she has a sister. Like maybe they're setting this up for something else. I don't remember her having a sister in the first season.
I don't either, but Tom, we've done a lot in between season 1 and now, so I'm not going to be expected to remember
does?
it all.
Well, we know Amy doesn't have a sister, right? So this has to be like an adopted sister or sister she found at the women's shelter later on.
Right. I assume whoever's running that cult is just collecting wayward children. So yeah, it's probably an adopted kid. Tom, all I have to say is Autumn gets so angry when she doesn't get what she wants, and there's only one other person who I've ever seen get that angry, and it's Amy, Tom. It's Amy. I was like, what? Amy's 9 or 8.
And they didn't even do something with season 1 where like she had a temper tantrum or she screamed or she broke a plate when she didn't get ice cream. Like there was nothing to give us this sense. But the show just said, oh, okay, she's an angry person. I see you and Amy, so you must be Amy now. Like
Right.
It was so weird.
My wife goes, wait, so is this now Cecilia believing that she's Amy? That's all it took? She's like,
Yep.
You know who screams at pastors? Amy screams at pastors. You know who demands $500,000? Amy demands $500,000.
That's my girl.
Yeah, I thought that was so weird.
Yeah, it was weird.
Oh,
it was out
man.
of place.
The lovely moment where Royal is in the hospital waiting room and he's being questioned by the tribal cop. I thought this was actually... I thought this was a really good scene where Royal's just like, ask me what you want to ask me. Like,
Yeah,
because the
stop being around
cop's
the bush.
doing the kind of cop asking around. And he's like, if I hurt her, would I have brought her here? And I think the cop says something like, well, we see domestic abuse cases where that happens all the time. And I was like, oh, good point. Checkmate, Royal. Go to jail.
Isn't that technically what he did with Autumn? Did he take Autumn to the hospital after
Yes.
hurting her?
And then he leaned in real hard when the doctor was like, are you safe at home? And Royal's like, she's very safe. Her head is the safest. It's never been hit. I don't know. Anyways, I found like the tribal police, the deputy, like Royal in the waiting room. I thought all this was captivating. The deputy like putting his gun down and being like, hey, I'm asking as a concerned person who like loves Joy, is she okay? I don't know how. Them following him to the res, we were like, why? I don't know that they. And him turning to Royal and being like, or turning to the tribal cop and being like, I've got the impression that my sheriff just went into your land. And it's like, how? So maybe that guy is some sort of magician because he's a deputy magician who can see the future and read people's minds.
Well, he sees Joy in the car. Like there's
Does
like a
he?
comical cut. Yeah, when they're leaving the gas station, there's like a super quick cut where they're essentially gone, but then it just shows Joy's face and this guy making eye contact. It was, again, I thought a bit laughable in terms of the way it was shot, so that's why they essentially follow him.
Oh, I was probably on my Reddit forum making comments about the episode and all
Yeah.
of the flashbacks because no one else will. So I missed that moment. But so did the person watching with me because she had the same question as to why are they following them? But it is what it is. I guess this is then the hospital visit. Joy and Royal are talking, and she's like, I time traveled, and he doesn't flinch, and she's like, gotcha. And the most interesting part of this conversation was, did you get the sense that, because I think our theory was Royal changed this story when he was explaining it to Perry about him shooting his father was an accident. Are you now under the impression that that is his memory, or
Yeah, I don't know
is
if
he
it's
lying to himself?
Yeah, I feel like it could be either. Like it could be him, the traumatic event as a child. He's trying to kind of rewrite it and not actively shooting his father, but it being an accident. So I don't know if that's the show doing that. But the way it was kind of cut, they did this whole kind of flashbacky vision kind of thing where there's a bunch of quick cuts while he's being told this. And to me, it almost made me think that the show is saying, based off of what Joy did and her actions that she took when she went back in time, it is now affecting his memory. So maybe in his time, he actually did shoot his father in a hunting accident, but because Joy jumped into the hole in this alternate universe, this timeline, I don't know what it means, but that she might have been changing his memory actively. So I don't know. That's kind of the way I took it.
Well, that also leads to your question about rules changing, because we haven't seen that. Like, Perry is in the, Perry is with young Royal. So Royal should be having changing memories about Perry. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I guess Perry should then, I don't want to get into the timey-wimey, but it's weird for them, because I know what you're saying. They did like a quick cut, and it was like, he did purposely shoot his dad. It was a hunting accident. Like, they were meshing the memories, so you don't know. So yeah, that's a rule change. If what happens when someone goes through the hole then affects memory, and I'm not
against that idea. I think it could be done interesting, but just knowing that we don't have enough time to explore this at all, and then they're just kind of introducing this fact now. Like, especially when we know Perry's been gone for a long time and has been with young Royal for a long time. Old Royal should know about that, but he shows no inclination of knowing.
Well, here's the other thing. Joy was gone for 4 years, and she seemingly is only gone for a few days. I don't think that's... I mean, I know God broke time when he created man, but I don't think that's how that should work. Can Perry come back, like, seconds from now, and he's like, oh, I punched young Wade Tillerson a bunch of times in the past? Like, I don't... I'm confused by that in terms of how time moves. But
yeah, with you.
I think confusion is part of this show's MO, so that's okay. Royal gives Joy, he's like, listen, I've been lying my whole life, still lying. You need to tell someone about this, because otherwise it'll eat you up inside. He's like, this lie broke up my family, so tell the truth is my advice. And then I was like, did it really break up your family? I'm pretty sure your one-tempered, angry son accidentally killed someone in a bar fight, or purposely killed someone in a bar fight. And that's what kicked this all off, right?
Yeah,
otherwise, they're just living their lives. Sad Sack Perry, or Serial Killer Perry, as we like to call him, he started this, not Royal lying about time. And also, when Cecilia's like, Autumn, there's only one person I've ever seen get that angry, she should then think and go, well, two. I guess Perry keeps getting angry and beating people to death. So, and then she.
Perry is Amy's dad, right? So
that's fair. It runs in that bloodline. I don't know.
But yeah, he makes a comment of like, hey, the first lie is the hardest, and then it becomes easier and easier. But I'm with you. Like, he's got grown kids. They seem to have lived a very fruitful life running this farm. But it's all now that stuff is breaking apart, and I guess the lies he's told since then. So I don't know. Like, I get the sentiment of what he's trying to do here, but again, I feel like it's kind of loosely written because he seemingly was a good father, husband, or whatever before all this stuff occurred.
Yeah. I also want to say, when he's like, the first lie is the hardest, you could take that to mean like it's difficult to lie to the people you love. In Joy's case, it feels like she's just bad at lying. She's like, yeah, they threw me in a trunk. I don't know. I think I was gone for a couple of hours. Also, my cell phone's dead, and they took away my fingerprints, and I'm not going to be on any cameras. Also, you're never going to find them. Do you believe me? Like, I don't. Her lie in this hospital room is terrible.
Well, and it's interesting too, right? Because Royal tells her to tell the truth, but I don't know if that's telling the truth to like your significant other or if it's telling the truth to the law. Like, right? Because like she immediately decides to lie about this as opposed to telling the truth. But I don't even know what the truth would look like to the other sheriff that comes and sees her.
Sure, that's fair. I'm pretty sure you're always supposed to tell the truth to the police. And that's because we have some police that listen. So, Tom, you and I always tell the truth to the officers, right?
Nothing but the truth. Yeah,
Nothing
for sure.
but the truth. So help us, Josh Brolin.
Or whatever.
Or whatever. Yeah, thanks, John Hodgman. There's that quick moment where the deputy that he left at the border, they let him in. I thought this was a nice moment. Two law enforcement communities working together to solve a crime that's going to be unsolvable because their sheriff's lying to them. But he's like, I'm going to be coming for you, Royal. And Royal's like, I've heard that enough to believe you. Which,
was a good
they're
line.
great lines, but I'm like, what does that mean? Are those two going to fight? Like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I like the Badgeless Century, and I wrote a note in the outline at this point, but I feel like there's a lot of like weird and goofy music cues throughout this episode. I don't know if you kind of picked up on them. Like, I like the music in general, like especially when we got Billy singing or Wayne singing more so in these last couple episodes, but there's just like this weird, like off-putting music they put in these scenes that just don't mesh and seem to make sense to me.
Tom, we haven't talked about this yet, but I have something to confess. Obviously, we watch every show with subtitles. Well, it's gotten so bad that we've now just muted the shows and we just turn on subtitles. So I don't even hear voices or music. I just read the words on the screen. And so I don't have any music cues unless a music cue popped up that said, in parentheses, a lot of weird music cues this episode. Then I would know because the subtitles told me. But
I do like the subtitles when they do music cues when they say like eerily goofy or like the way it tries to describe music is great.
Right. Oh, eerie music continues. You're like, oh, I didn't know that it was going to end, but now I know it's continuing. All right. Cecilia visits Lewis because she's going to apologize. Now Cecilia's on like an apology tour, and I found this. I mean, is this supposed to show that like Autumn got to her, that now she's a better person? This turnaround is so quick. And speaking of turnarounds real quick, Lewis pulls that gun real quick.
Yeah, he comes out hot. Yeah,
Right.
I get that, she rolled up on him with a shotgun or whatever, and I guess, broke up his sweat lodge, whatever was going on in there. But I don't understand why he immediately like puts a gun right to her face. I didn't get it.
It's the Wild West, Tom. He comes out, he's like, I got 6 apologies for you, and they're all lead. That would have been a great line had he said it. He did not. I came up with that one on my own. And forgiveness is more than saying sorry. That's what I wrote in the outline, and I believe that is a definitely maybe quote. The rom-com with Ryan Reynolds. Congratulations to him and all the billions he's making off Mint Mobile and the Deadpool movies. Have you seen the Deadpool movie yet, Tom?
Yeah, new one's fantastic. If you haven't seen it, go see it. Probably been spoiled for you already because for whatever reason they like to give us maybe a day before they start spoiling everything on the internet.
Tom, I'll tell you right now, it has not been spoiled for me, so I have no idea what happens in it. Although I don't know if I'm going to watch it. I think I'm going to be spending the rest of my days just watching this show over and over and over again.
Smart.
These specific 2 episodes. All right. Lewis calls Rebecca, who has Amy, and guess what? Amy's mad at Mama, because she threatened Rebecca, and she doesn't want to talk to her. And that doesn't make Cecilia feel great.
I don't get how Amy gets turned so quickly here, right? Like, what did Rebecca say to her that would make her grandma that she had been living with? I mean, how long was Rebecca gone? Like a year and a half, however long? It seems odd that there'd be something that you could say to a 9-year-old to then completely shun her grandma.
Well, I think a kid is always going to side with their mom, and especially if they're cut off from the rest of the family, and Rebecca like works on her in the cult of grandmas are bad. Then maybe there was that implication, or not implication, it was said that Rebecca was run off by Cecilia, by something that Cecilia said. And so I guess that has now been passed off to Amy. But from what I gather, Cecilia ran her off because she was shacking up with Lewis. But
yeah, I don't get what the catalyst is, right? What is Rebecca telling Amy that was said? Like, I don't get what is causing that.
Listen, I'm assuming Rebecca gave Amy like 3 ice cream cones and was like, if you want
Dippies?
the third one, you have something from Dippy's. If you want the third one, you have to hate your grandma. And Amy's like, okay, that's fine.
Done.
And so done. Like, on the phone, she's like, I hate you, grandma, and I want my ice cream. And Rebecca's like, oh, you'll get it now. You'll get a sundae for that. So we jump to the end of this episode, thank goodness. And Luke has stolen the space drugs from Billy, and he gives the mineral to Autumn. And why? Oh, is this just the drugs and the visions that have caused this weird 3?
I think Luke has seen the visions of Autumn, and he wants to give this to Autumn because as he gives it to her, he says, like, tell me what you see. So he just wants Autumn to see what he sees and see that he is like her future and not Billy.
Right. But all 3 of these people are either insane or dum-dums. So why are they all falling in love with each other so quickly? Is it the space dust? Is the space dust, how do I put this? A leading aphrodisiac? Like, why is the space dust causing the Autumn, Luke, and Billy riff?
I don't know if I get it, and I also feel like, and we'll get into this next episode.
Now you're just quoting Royal, Tom. I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's kind of our philosophy for this entire podcast. We should probably get shirts made. Not just this show, but most everything we watch. We just say we don't know.
We don't know.
But I feel like they just do Billy dirty here, like of kind of shooing him aside, and even Autumn later is just like, oh, he's served his purpose. I'm moving on. Like, you're the one that's by my side in these later visions, so that's all that matters.
Yeah, they brought him back from a neck wound. Like, and all he's done since is sat in a hospital bed. Really? Was this actor was like, I'd like to be brought back for season 2, and they're like, okay, but we've got a doozy of a storyline for you. How's your bed acting? And he's like, I'm an incredible bed actor. And they're like,
Did soap operas as a kid.
Well, guess what? They're like, can you sing while laying in a hospital bed? You betcha I can.
Give me a keyboard.
Give me a keyboard. No, save it, Tom. Save the hospital bed keyboard talk for, I believe, the next episode. Oh no. Yeah. All right. So,
but anyways, yeah. I mean, like, I get what Luke's doing. He's trying to unlock, I guess, Amy's crazy or Autumn's crazy and be more meaningful in her life.
You believe too,
yeah.
huh? You believe it now too. You're mixing up the names. Speaking of people that believe it, Cecilia and Royal ride out to the hole. Why do we ride sometimes and why do we drive sometimes? What?
That's a good point.
Like, we have to literally saddle up the horses in order to ride out to the hole, where we've watched him drive to it straight away several times. Once again, horses are expensive. Old trucks are not. Actually, that's not true in this economy. But, yeah, this is like, I don't know. I love when these 2 actors are on screen together, but I don't feel like they give them enough to do, really.
Yeah, I agree. And, like, they're just going to this hole to have the same conversation they've had, like, 5 times this season of, like, yelling at each other, then making up again. So I guess they're back on the same page. Everything is good. It's not a very healthy relationship. No. To your point about most of these shows, a little communication goes a long way.
It goes a long, long way. All right. The episode ends with Autumn does the drugs, and she looks in the mirror, and she sees herself as Amy, which is this confirmation that she is Amy? Are we all now just buying that?
My goodness, if it's not confirmation, then the show is completely off the rails. Because the fact that even she would look into the mirror, see herself, like, yeah, there has to be the connection here. I do appreciate that she takes the drugs, like, I think she didn't like snort it or ever, but she puts the drugs on a geology book, which I thought was very meta, and that's what she takes it off of. But I like the way they designed.
You don't do your cocaine off a cocaine textbook, Tom?
I mean, geology book would still be appropriate for cocaine, I imagine.
Oh, well, no, I think you'd want like a plant book, right? I don't know.
Botany book, yeah, you're right. You're
Right,
right.
right, right.
It's been a while.
Yeah, I know.
But I mean,
Congratulations on your sobriety, friend.
the way they are like portraying the devil dust or whatever we're calling it, space dust, it seems a lot more like pop rocks this season, or just like black sprinkles than it did last season.
Yeah, it looks like instant coffee. That's what it looks like. It looks like instant coffee crystals. And for anyone that's like not mixed their instant coffee well, that stuff is bitter and it does not cause visions. But
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
all right, Tom, let's move from 5 to 6, which is called Do-Si-Do.
Swing your partner round and round.
The penultimate episode of the show.
You'll still can't figure out how to say that word, can you?
Nope, that's fine. I'm just gonna do-si-do on by, and
I would hope you do-si don't.
very good, very good. Let's definitely keep that one in. This is where we have Brolin talking about how the Earth was made, and
This should be the show. I just want Brolin to do like the Cosmos. I just want him to narrate more timey-wimey space poem.
Yeah, sure. Like a biblical Genesis, the Earth was made in 7 days, and God rested on the seventh, and dinosaurs are just something that a certain people buried in the ground, according to Arrested Development. So, anyways, let's move on. What is time, Tom?
Yeah, time is a construct.
And God broke it in order to make man. I was like, hey, this sounds really cool. I don't know what it means. I've watched a lot of Christopher Nolan movies. I recently watched Interstellar. You can tell me about gravity, but I don't really understand what we're talking about in terms of time. So, but it sounded good, to your point. And we open with Autumn. I called it beautiful minding. She's writing all over her walls. This is either prisoners that have been in solitary too long or Russell Crowe winning the Oscar in A Beautiful Mind. That's what she's doing.
I thought she was writing her memoir. And this is quintessential, like, couldn't be more up my alley to pause and read every little thing on the wall, because I'm sure there's little nuggets and some interesting things on there, but I just found myself not caring enough to do it.
Oh, yeah. And there was a lot, and you were going to have to, like, walk up to the television and stare at it.
Yeah.
And I also did not read it. Once again, this is why Reddit exists, for the people that actually care and watched the show when it came out years ago. But Royal and Cecilia are like, Autumn, what's going? And then she goes night night and collapses. I was like, that was pretty cool. And I've realized in this show that medical treatment is always a second resort. She clearly has some sort of head injury, and Cecilia and Royal are like, let's just let her sleep. That's common concussion protocol.
Yeah,
Just
sleep it
give
off.
her some water, let her sleep. Don't wake up soon, Autumn. We'll see you on the next plane of existence. I don't know. This was... They treated her like if the camera had panned out and Autumn was on the couch with Sprite and chicken noodle soup, I would not have been surprised. I was like, oh, that's how they cure him.
That'd been great.
But then they want Autumn to tell them, I think this is them on the porch, right? They're having a conversation. And I alluded to this when we were talking about the last episode, but this is one where I kept asking myself, what are we trying to solve? Why are we sitting on the porch? Our house is about to get taken from us. Oh, by the way, Ex Machina, it's not. But like, they're like, oh, we need Autumn to tell us where to find Amy. And I was like, well, we know Amy's safe. We talked to her on the phone. She's with her mom. These two don't have custody. Like, legally, they don't have custody. Her mom or her dad would have custody. I understand that you can't, like, kidnap your kid. I don't want to get into the domestic legalities of it all, but, like,
I wish you would.
Cecilia can't go and just steal her granddaughter because she misses her. She's Rebecca's kid and Perry's kid. And guess what? Perry's in, the 1980s, so he can't... I found all this weird that this is what they cared about.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I can think of, again, that they care about this is just knowing this Autumn Amy connection, and they think something is going, or bad is going to happen to Amy, which is going to cause Autumn to forget or, I don't know, follow whatever path she's on now to get to where she is. But again, it's just, then you start playing with the time stuff. Well, if you're changing what happens to Amy, then does this Autumn exist? Like, I just don't. And the show doesn't, I think, really even care to answer some of those questions. I also feel like we finally, in the last episode, got like Cecilia and Royal finally being on the same page, making up again. Yet Royal is asked like point blankly about what happened in his past, and he seemingly is still lying about it. Right? He doesn't tell Cece about his like future and his visions and things that he saw. When like Cece told him to run back into the hole when they had that countdown clock. I mean, didn't we have Royal like dying in Cece's arms, and he's still not telling her and revealing everything? I don't get it. Like, he's still not even following his own advice and is lying to Cece.
Right. Yes, they need to ride out to the hole in order for him to share any truths or feelings. He's just got such a rugged exterior that he can't open up to her. The thought of Amy being in trouble or in danger, I don't know that I really picked up on it until later in this episode, where Autumn is like screaming at herself in like different ways. And that's when I was like, okay, I got it, show. You're trying to point me that Amy is in danger. But I was still confused when they're like, we got to find Amy. And it's like, no, you need to raise $500,000 so that you have a house. That's what you need to be doing.
Yeah.
Also, there's a hole in your west pasture that, I don't know, maybe that nice science lady at the university could probably help you with. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on here, and Amy is not the number one priority because she's safe with her mom,
Well, we did say, so what you just said there made me think of, and we'll get to it maybe a little bit in the outline, but when she had those visions, didn't we then kind of cut back to Rebecca and Amy, and we see that Amy was affected by what Autumn was doing? Like, she had nightmares or she had something going on. So I'm wondering if maybe what happened to Amy and like the catalyst for her losing her memory or something is something dramatic that Autumn does, like older version of Amy, and that's what causes everything.
I think that's what they're pointing to, because at one point Royal even points out, he's like, well, she's almost 9 and you don't remember anything. So they're coming to whatever that event is that causes Autumn to forget what happened.
Are we going to get
before.
that event? Do you think that's where this season is going to end? We're going to get like catalyst event?
Yes, I would assume so. Someone's going to like hit Amy with a frying pan, and she's going to go like, she's going to do like a Three Stooges type boing, and they're going to be like, oh no, her memory's gone. And the doctor's going to say she'll never remember anything before she was 9. And then he's going to stare into the camera, and it's going to go to black, and it's going to say produced by Dick Wolf. And they're gonna say, thank you for wasting your time on this show. That's what I predict the finale is going to be, Tom.
Okay, I like it. Bold prediction, but you're a bold man.
Yes, I am bold. Speaking of bold and struggling, I think you said struggling when you described me. Maria and Rhett seem to be struggling. This love story didn't really make it off the ground. I liked this idea that I think a travel trailer rolls by and it has like Alaska on it. And they're like,
how excited were you by that travel trailer? It looked pretty dope.
I was like, you need new tires, and they're going to cost an arm and a leg. But I was like, these two are like, we'll always have white fish. And she's like, oh, by the way, I never quit my job because I didn't believe in us. I'm going back to work. And Rhett's like, probably a good idea. Pretty smart. I'll see you around, buddy. And they high five and go their separate ways. There's so many minor characters I want to spend time with, and I just don't get it in this show. But the Rhett and Maria of it all, I don't know that those kids are headed to a real happy ending.
I still don't really get, like we talked about in the beginning, like Rhett and Maria were kind of on their own island, kind of doing their own thing, but then Rhett's been pulled back into the plot for whatever reason. I get it, it's family, whatever else, but he's not doing anything. Like, he's being told that he has to follow Autumn, but he's not following Autumn. Like, I don't get why we have to bring his character back in. Like, we could have just let both these characters ride off into the sunset.
Well, so in one of the following scenes, Rhett comes back and Brolin goes, "The hole's back." And I had a second where I was like, wait, does Rhett know about the hole? How does Rhett know about the hole? When did Rhett experience the hole? Did he drive out to it to get his father or something? Because he doesn't dispose of the body. What does Rhett know of the hole?
Does Royal... And see, now I'm not... it's been so long, but in season 1, did Royal eventually say how he got rid of the body? Or I don't think he did ever tell his family. He only tells Cece, like, at the beginning of this season, right? Like, he just said he got rid of the body. They assumed he did a poor job because, Trevor showed up on the Rocky Mountains on the East Pasture or something like that. I don't know. But, yeah, he immediately realized, like, hey, the hole's back. I've got to tell you about it. And
you need to watch Autumn. And
yeah,
if I was Rhett, I was like,
change.
man, I wish I'd just gone to Whitefish. And also, what hole? That's what I would have. Those are the things that would have come out of my mouth.
I also wish they would have done like the thing about, he sees the hole. He's going to pick a rock, throw it in there, a shovel, throw it in there.
Yep.
I want to see how he reacts. And he just kind of doesn't. He just takes it all in stride.
Yep. Escalation of wholeness, they call it. You have to escalate your procedures to figure out what's happening in the hole. It's a common geology practice.
Yeah, hole escalation.
Yep, exactly right. During the same process, Autumn's awake. She walks by these two, Royal and Cecilia, that is, and they both mention, like, hey, did you notice her scars are gone? I didn't know what that was.
I think they ran out of budget for the makeup. They couldn't keep putting the scar on her head.
She's supposed to have a matching head wound to Amy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the scar that is now gone?
I guess. I don't know. I didn't know what to make of this. They made it seem like this was like, I mean, they said it so quickly in passing, but it made it seem like this is a big revelation, but I don't know what we're supposed to take from this because they just showed us the two characters looking in the mirror and seeing themselves. Like, they tried to point us in a different direction now. I just don't get it.
I don't either.
What did you take? What was your initial take when they said their scar's gone?
I didn't know I didn't know if they were trying to tell us that the space dust has some sort of healing properties, or if something changed in the timeline that now she wouldn't have scars. I mean, if she doesn't have scars, does Amy not have scars? Does that mean Amy is safe? I did not know. I think the easy explanation is when you take space dust, it heals scars. And so the medical community is going to get their grubby little hands on that space dust now because they're going to want to sell it to people so they can heal them. And I'm not for that.
I would argue maybe it heals physical scars, but I would argue that it creates some mental ones.
Maybe. Although I've seen everyone in the show take space dust and have a grand old time. So I don't know. Speaking of people that are having a grand old time, Aaron, will you put the air horn music right here? Because this is the moment where Billy is singing. And there it is. Thank you. What was our sound guy's name? What was the...
Billy. Nate Billy?
No. Billy's
Jimmy.
the character in the
Jimmy.
show. Jim.
It's Jimmy.
Jims are beauties.
Timothy? I'm sure call him Jim.
Yeah, that's right. All right, Billy's singing, and Tom, all I could think about, because it took me a second to recognize the lyrics, but how good was the album Throwing Copper by Live? Just incredible, right?
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. And I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, I know this song. I know these words. And I had to sing the rest of it in my head to get to it. But yeah, just fantastic. And I like how Billy is, we've already mentioned this bedside keyboard that he is like gently caressing as he lays down in the bed. But just like, this is him getting his voice back. He can't just like talk or do speech therapy. He's got to sing it to life. I love it.
So good. So good. Did I listen to the live album quite a bit after this episode? I did.
Awesome.
I had this thought that I was like, oh, Dolphins Cry is on this album too. It's not on this album. That's a different album. And then I remembered that Dolphins Cry as a song taught me what a placenta was. And I don't know that many teenage boys other than our generation walked around singing songs about placentas. So, and if I'm being honest, I actually don't know what
Still
it is.
Don't know.
I know it's something that not many people sing about, maybe. But let's move on. Billy, just wonderful. I'm glad that we're going to watch Billy live a long and fruitful life. And it's great to have him in the show. We have a Wayne and Luke interaction where they're still fighting, and I don't know what they're fighting about. I don't know why they're fighting. The father just seems to dislike the son, and the son dislikes the father. Once again, they're really letting Wayne cook, which I love for him. Tom, I don't. It's Will Patton is the actor. Have you ever seen the old Kevin Costner movie No Way Out?
I don't think so.
Okay. So it's an old like espionage type. There's a conspiracy in the government, and Kevin Costner plays a like naval officer working in Washington D.C. and Will Patton plays the chief of staff in this movie, and he is swinging for the fences, and he's probably, I don't know, mid-20s in the movie, maybe he's around 30, but Will Patton has been batting 1,000 for, I don't know, 60 years as an actor. And I love every moment of it. It's just a real great time to have Will Patton. I have no idea why him and Luke are fighting, but I love it.
I do like him in this episode, this series, because he just has gone full bore cuckoo bananas, and I'm for it. And I agree with you that Will Patton acts the heck out of it. I do have to ask here, like, this is another sequence where this is a very like high-end, rich family ranch with these massive like wood cabin-y walls, which I almost is it a different set than the first episode or the first season? Because I feel like the house looks either bigger or just different. But they are constantly have like dirt bikes and random like toys, like outdoor recreational vehicles just hanging out in their living room. I don't understand it. Did you clock that or notice that?
Yes, we had a conversation about dirt bikes in the house, and in our house, they are not allowed. So that was a rule that was determined while we watched this episode. I don't know why Wayne and Luke are fighting, but I know why me and my wife are fighting. I got the sense that this was something the writer or showrunners had probably seen in real life, where when you take a rich ranching family and you have three very privileged and rich boys, they have their dirt bikes in the house, and it's just like a constant, I don't know. That's how I took it. So I believe they have been clocked before in the show, but we did have a conversation about them. And at this point, once again, in our house, they are not allowed in the living room.
Pity.
But for those of you that are on my side, you can reach out to us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com and maybe tell someone why it's a really good idea to have dirt bikes in the house, because it would be awesome and I would ride them around.
It's like fine art.
Yes.
Get your ticker going.
Like fine art. It does get your ticker going.
Don't whisper it. It sounds weird when you whisper it.
Maybe Will Patton should have tried whispering a little bit in the show instead of yelling. Anyways, Billy is healing, and now he wants his space powder, which has been stolen by Luke. And Billy and Luke are fighting over Autumn, and it's just it's a classic will they, won't they, Sam and Diane, and I'm going to say Jim situation. I love triangle. I love quadrahedron, Tom, or you're the one that does shapes.
Dodecahedron?
That's the one. Yes, of course. I think what I said was a place where ninjas fight each other. Anyways, Autumn, we cut to Autumn. I think this is her, like, not catching the bus. She's walking in the middle of nowhere, and she's arguing with herself. With herself. There's like three versions of her, right? There's
like a teenage Amy or Autumn or whatever we hadn't seen before. So I'm assuming this is a setup for, I don't know, new actor for season 3 that'll never be.
Sure. So I got my big break, Mom. I'm moving in the 3rd season of Outer Range. Mom, I've got some terrible news. Those calls happened within 5 minutes of each other. It's kind of like the Romanian gymnast who won the bronze for about 15 seconds before the Americans changed the score and took it from her.
Love it. Some good evergreen material. Thanks,
Oh
Jules.
man, that was go back and watch that, folks. That girl was devastated, and she had every right to be. That was a rough moment to watch. Everyone was very happy for the American. I really felt for the Romanian who had it torn from her cold gymnastic fingers. All right. During this argument between the Three Autumns, that's a great band name, by the way, the Three Autumns, one of them's like, why do you need to hurt Amy? Or you need to hurt Amy. And why are we hurting Amy? This is, I think to your point, this is going to lead to the traumatic moment where she can't remember anything afterwards. But I don't think we're supposed to know why Autumn needs to hurt Amy, right?
I don't even know if Autumn knows she is hurting Amy, right?
Okay.
I feel like that's my take. She's just kind of going on this journey herself. She's not knowing that it impacts her. Like, she saw herself in the mirror, but she didn't know that she was causing nightmares, or like young Amy was getting the black-filled eyeballs as well. So that's my kind of thought. She doesn't know what she's doing here.
Okay. We cut in time to young Royal and Sad Sack Perry. And Sad Sack Perry fake apologizes to young Wayne because Cecilia asks him to. And then he says something like, I'm sorry I hit you while you were kissing that belt bunny or belt buckle bunny something. And then he starts laughing. And I don't know. Perry was all of a sudden fun in this moment. I was like, oh, this is good. He's like shaking his fist at him.
Yeah.
I thought this was great.
Royal smiled in the background. Yeah, they're best buddies now.
Yeah, they're the best. That's the show I want to watch. Just young Royal and Perry. Like, that would be hilarious if you were hanging out with your dad when he was the same age as you.
That would be good.
Yeah. Speaking of things that are good, the yelling pastor, but also the not yelling pastor shows up. And he's like, guess what? We had a plot issue in the show that we needed to take care of because we have only one episode. So I got a guy from our congregation who none of us have talked about yet. His name is Ty Riggins. He paid the bail so you can keep the ranch. I'm pretty sure this is a forfeiture of bail. Like, you put bail up for someone to stay in the location. So this is not bail. This is literally, this guy had to pay the court $500,000. Now they owe him $500,000.
Right.
All we have done is moved money around.
But they're gonna allow him to keep his ranch. You know Ty Riggins. He's a wonderful man of the community.
Sure. Well, he's part of the church congregation, so obviously he's going to. This episode was like, listen, religion is bad, but rich people, they're great. They'll help you out. That's what I learned from this.
I was gonna ask. I mean, you had some issues with the pastor, but I mean, ultimately he's not maybe providing the money, but he's coming through, right? Is this a Jesus saves moment?
I mean, the congregation is probably going to talk about it next Sunday like it is. And Ty Riggins is probably going to get like a bundt cake delivered to his house by one of those old ladies. But I don't know. I find the pastor's swings from one way to the other such a strange. And sometimes they have him quote things that they make it. I hate when shows do this. They make him say things that sound like they're from the Bible. Like they just give it that flair. And you're like, I'm pretty sure that's not scripture. But for most people, they'd probably just be like, oh, I bet that's what the Bible says. And I don't know. It's my thought is this: rich people are great, and if you want your problem solved, pray to them. That's essentially. Sorry, Gam.
I just still you mentioned it. Like, I still don't like the whole idea of them losing their ranch and being such a big deal. It's all a MacGuffin, right? Like, none of it mattered. It was just to put stakes on something that they knew they were going to solve with just the. Essentially the line in the page of a script to be able to say, oh, nope, no problem anymore. So now you can focus on the other stuff. It was just so, I don't know. I hated this moment.
Listen, unless this comes back in the finale where Ty Riggins actually works for the university and he knows about the West Pasture and like they've buried this, but it just feels like lazy writing. If it comes out in the finale that it's something deeper and, oh, by the way, like it wasn't alone, he just bought their ranch, I think that would be amazing. What I also think is amazing is they took their brand off that tall gate and now one of them has to go put it back up. And I would be absolutely furious if I went up there and took that down. One of the things I hate most in life is having to redo something that is hard work, like when you plant a bunch of trees in your backyard and they all die because it's 120 degrees in Arizona, despite the fact that you water them. So frustrating.
Water's super cheap too, so.
Yeah, water's cheap and so are plants. I would just like to say our sponsor today is Home Depot, which has a year warranty on trees. So you can buy them, let them die, and then return them. So I'm only buying my trees from Home Depot from now on. And I'm just going to replace them every year.
Yeah, you really are a pretty sick human being. You just go and buy trees to murder them and then bring them back and do it all over again.
And I get to look at that employee's face when I hand him a stick. And I'm like, this was a tall oak tree. Please give me my money back.
This Groot didn't make it.
This Groot didn't make it. I don't get the reference, Tom, but I appreciate that we're all talking about trees. Speaking of people that love trees, we have Rhett in a diner ordering a cup of coffee, only to be approached by hot scientist who's like, let me show you a trick of how I make the spoon stand up or something. I don't know if it's just the removal of a white lab coat, but I was like, who is this seductress that is now... I thought the show was trying to be like, oh, Red is already stepping out on Maria. Instead, she's like, listen, I want your west pasture. And Rhett's like, ma'am, I am in a relationship. I do not, please do not call it my west pasture. And she's like, Royal is stuck in time and people are going to push him out. I need you to let us get in that west pasture. And he's like, please stop calling it that. What was the cup of coffee thing? She's like, I can make
I don't know.
This cup
like
of...
a spoon riddle or something. I don't know. Again, I feel like this scene did the same kind of thing about like noticeably people drinking water. I don't know if there's something to it, but I felt like the show is really pushing that on us. But I don't like this entire scene just seemed forced. Like they needed these two characters together, so Rhett's just gonna go to a coffee shop and she's just gonna somehow be there with this exact motive to talk to him. Like it was weird. It didn't make sense.
It's called an apple pie ambush, Tom. You wait in a diner for the person that you want the pasture from to show up, and then you take off your lab coat, you sit next to him, and you're like, "Hey, guess what? I can put my spoon in your cup and it won't even get wet." And Rhett is like, "Ma'am, please don't talk to me." I don't know if you've seen Maria, but she's a lovely woman, and she's got a job at a bank, which means we've got a lot of money that we have access to. Unlike science, where there's no money in that, and then he grabs his hat and leaves.
I'm pretty sure the science is still out on science.
The science is definitely still out on science. Hard cut to the Abbotts beating up Lewis, who the last time I felt like she asked Lewis for forgiveness and she apologized to him, and a lot changed in those 3 hours because now they're beating the snot out of him with some sort of wrench.
Yeah, it was CC with the wrench at the mobile home.
Yep. Also, Lewis, not a very good dodgeball player because you got to learn to dodge those wrenches. But we find out he does not stand up to wrench torture. Rebecca's at a women's shelter and she's got Amy, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, is this the confirmation that it's not a cult? I mean, there were some big rugs in the ground, so it made me think cult vibes. But is this is a place where she's like seeking shelter from like an abusive relationship or abusive family? Or do you think that Rebecca is part of some bigger cult or something?
I think it's probably a women's shelter with a cult. Maybe, there's probably some spirituality being passed around. It's tough to argue with rugs outside on the ground. So I'm not yet ready to say not a cult, but I do accept that it's a women's shelter. Maybe that's just what he told told Lewis, that is. I think it's real terrible of Lewis to give her up, because if she is at like a women's shelter, you got to keep that stuff quiet so that Cecilia doesn't show up with that wrench. So yeah, Lewis is a bad friend and he should have gone to his grave with that secret.
Yeah. I do want to bring out that one of our listeners did point out that this is one of many felonies that take place in this episode and the last, just taking out this guy in complete surprise here and then putting a gun right to his face. Just So many felonies. This town has gone wild.
Yeah, I mean, but it's all justified, Tom, because of love. You know, they love this
I thought a
child.
TV show.
They love this child that they don't have custody of legally or spiritually or emotionally because she hates them. So it's not a felony then. And also, I think in court you could just say Lewis is a stubborn nut and that you're allowed to beat a wrench on a stubborn nut. Which is something I've often done. Wow, that's phrasing. All right, let's move on. We have Wayne and the judge. The show's like, hey, I know we've only got one episode less, but we'd love to complicate things a little bit more. Guess what? The judge was working with Wayne.
He's taken care of. I love how many times he repeats "taken care of" and then makes it louder and louder and louder. This is just great Wayne Tillerson moment.
I will go on record. I wish Wayne was the main character of the show. I don't think we've gotten enough of Will Patton. It feels like he left for a couple of episodes. He showed up back in this one. I don't want young Wayne. I want Will Patton's Wayne, and I want, I don't know, conservatively, 10 straight hours of him because he's awesome. But yeah, it's like, hey, we paid this actor who's the judge, who seems to be the judge in a lot of things, and we paid Will Patton. Let's give him a scene. And yeah, it was fun, but doesn't seem like I really needed to know this since we've only got one episode. But
yeah, I feel like we've already kind of gotten the hints that Wayne is kind of behind the scenes and using lawyers and judges to kind of make this happen. So yeah, to get the scene didn't seem necessary outside of just letting Wayne do his Wayne thing.
Yeah, I wish we had that lawyer back so Wayne could be like, I gave you Fritos. You told me this was taken care of. Remember the Frito guy, Tom?
Yeah.
Frito
Kinda sad I
Olay, he was called. Attorney Frito Olay from the practices of Olay, Oreo, and Dorito. Whew. That was not a very good joke, but we're going to leave it in because we have no shame. Autumn tells Maria to leave Rhett. This is at the bank where Autumn, obviously, she doesn't have online checking. That would be weird to look at your phone on an app that tells you how much money you have. You have to go in and sign a piece of paper because Wabang only does things analog. She's like, you need to leave Rhett. You should leave before he leaves you. She's like, I saw him having pie with a hot scientist at the diner. But obviously money triumphs all, and she finds out the bad news about her bank account and just runs off screaming. And if I was Maria, I'd just be like, that person's a loon. I'm not going to listen to anything she says. Also, she's got $0 in her bank account.
Oh, yeah. This is what I do when I generally leave the bank account. I just scream, no, 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 no.
Listen, I love Imogen Poots. Like, she is cooking in this show and seems to be having a great time. And I have no notes for her. I wish she was in more things.
Agreed.
This show does not lack... I'm trying to think if there's anyone in the show where, as they've been acting, I've been like, oh, that's just been rotten and bad. Everyone in the show is doing a phenomenal job. It's more the material and the fact that they got canceled. Those are my gripes.
So, man, maybe this is early to say this because we haven't seen the finale, but I'm kind of not surprised this got canceled. I'm just gonna throw it out there. I enjoy it. I'm having fun with it. It's fun to talk through, but it hasn't been a great season.
Sure, I'm not gonna get done with this show and be like, hey, you need to give Outer Range a chance. Maybe season 1, I guess, but then you have to tell them, listen, you get season 1 and nothing else. That's the issue. All right. Speaking of issues, Luke shoves his head in the hole. What's going on here? Why?
Thank goodness it was his head.
Luke's so handsome, and he's just got so many things going for him. This is, honestly, I think this is an allegory for what drugs do to kids. You know, dare, stay off drugs. That's what we're learning here, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, he's trespassing, right? Like, he's going to this hole when he shouldn't be. I would imagine if he's really wanting this high of space dust, can't you probably just kind of mine it off the little hole area? I don't understand why he thought this was a good idea or that he knew this was going to do anything. Like, nobody's told him that this is a mechanic that would allow him to have dreams. So why does he just shove his head in?
You've obviously never done a bucket of cocaine, Tom, where you can just shove your face in it like Scarface. I don't know. I'm with you. Like, hey, take some little baggies, put it in little baggies and start selling it, son.
Yeah,
and then you can
exactly.
buy your own ranch, and then you don't have to be under your dad's power.
But he sees these visions, right? We're just getting more and more visions, which is, again, I feel like the show is just leaning way too heavy on the visions. But it's, Autumn's disciple, or he sees that he's like Autumn's disciple in the visions. It's got all the people in the yellow, and he's smearing the mineral stuff actually on everybody's lips there as part of this cult following.
This show feels like if they did a reality TV show of people that wanted to be TV directors and editors, and they were like, we're going to give you just a bunch of clips and you have to make it into a TV show. This was like the one that won the reality TV show. And it feels like they shot all these visions of like Autumn leading a cult, all of that stuff. And they're like, all right, well, now we need to intermix this in. So anytime someone takes space dust, we just show Autumn leading the yellow people. And I don't know. It's obviously not Ash Wednesday because you put the ash on the forehead. In this one, they put it all over the lips. It'd be funny if they just shoved it up everyone's nose, like unceremoniously. That would be great. Joy goes to the Abbotts. Guess what, Tom? She collapses. Then she wakes up 30 minutes later. I don't know. There's some visions. I don't remember. Have we seen Royal collapse? Have we seen others collapse and just forget things?
No, this seemingly is just a new, like, I don't know, the worlds are colliding. This is some new mechanic that they're building into the show that because more people are time traveling, essentially, and it's not just Royal, that, I don't know, their lives are intermingled in some form or fashion.
Okay. And at that same time, I guess Perry starts hearing things, and he's like wiggling his ears like you and I do because we have tinnitus. Yeah, like you said, they're adding rules here that we didn't know were rules. Or maybe things are coming to a dramatic climax, so that's why all these things are happening. Maybe the rules were always the rules, Tom. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. I've never worked at Dippy's where they have a ton of rules, which is where Autumn is hanging out. And she has this vision of Perry and her, Amy, having ice cream. And I got so confused. I was like, wait, is Perry back? What is going on? And then my spouse, once again, much smarter than me, explained to me, probably a vision. And I said, Roger. And we moved on in the conversation.
Did at one point when, like, Luke, he meets up with Autumn here and they're having this conversation, does Amy, like, confirm that she fell into a hole? I felt like I notated that and maybe I just misheard it. But I thought she said something about her falling into the hole, or we saw her actually in one of the visions or something, like slowly falling backwards.
I believe there is a vision of Amy falling in the hole. Yes. So, is the traumatic event Autumn throwing Amy into the hole? I don't know. But yes, I believe you're right. In one of the visions, we see her like slow falling in a hole, which honestly, I would go and become an actor just to shoot one of those scenes. So they can like hook a bunch of things up to me and be like, all right, you're falling in a hole. How would you flail your arms? You know what I'd do, Tom? I'd flap them like a bird, because if I'm going to die falling in a hole, I'm going to at least try and fly, you know? I know it's not possible, but maybe in those few moments before death, I'm like, maybe I can be a bird and fly far away.
For the
that's
shot.
what I would do. But so far, no casting directors have called me.
You gotta get your tape out there more often, man.
That's fair. Autumn mentions that she needs Amy back there, and it feels like she's like, Luke, you need to go get her. And in my vision, I saw you as my protector, and like, Luke, you're my guy. And he's like, oh, cool. Yeah, we'll go get Amy. I just got to do something real quick. And they're both, and she's like, oh, cool, I'll be here when you. She sits in an ice cream store for 7 hours. What? I feel like Mr. Dippy's gonna walk out and be like, "Ma'am, do you need a ride somewhere?" He's like, "You've had 6 ice cream cones. I'm cutting you off. There's no way that much dairy is good for you."
Well, I don't get it. Like, he leaves to go taunt Billy. Like, I mean, that's the errand that he runs, right? Like, he didn't need to. I don't get it.
She told him, yeah, she's like, you're my guy. He's like, oh, great. Unrelated, I need to go run something by Billy, and he's going to be super mad about it. So just give me 1 sec. Eat some more ice cream. Here's $1. It's 2 for 1, according to the sign on Dippy's. Buy yourself some ice cream cones. And she's like, $1's not going to do it. And he's like, here's $5. And then she's like, great, 10 cones. So
One for each finger.
the hard cut, Tom. Royal Abbott is kissing Sissy. Royal is kissing Sissy Abbott, who is apparently Cecilia's sister, who I don't know that we knew about. This makes Sad Sack Perry angry, and he looks like he's going to go murder someone. I was confused. Is Perry assuming that because Royal knows he's his dad and is going to end up with Cecilia, that Royal's not allowed to kiss Sissy?
Yeah, I feel like it's a Back to the Future kind of thing. Like, if the parents don't fall in love, then he doesn't exist.
Oh, he's worried about not existing. Okay.
Yeah.
This is not like, Dad, you shouldn't kiss, like, you know.
I just punched this other guy for kissing some random lady.
Right. I'll punch you too. I bet Perry on Christmas morning when he comes down and Santa's kissing his mom, he's constantly beating the crap out of him. Yeah. So Perry's gonna go on a murder spree. That's my comment to that, because there's only 2 people in this world that I've ever seen get that angry. It's Perry and Amy. Wayne goes to we'll call it the handsome gentleman, or the handsome gambler. Thank you, Tom. He goes to do some private space dust in the corner of a busy bar, as one does. I've never done hard drugs, Tom, but I'm not doing them in a booth at a bar.
I like how he walks in. I think the bartender like clocks him, like, "Oh, I didn't think I'd ever see you in here." And then Wayne gives him like the coy line, like, "I need you to get me drunk." And he's like, "All right."
I hope a TikTok trend is people filming themselves walking into bars, turning to bartenders and going, "Get me drunk," and just what a normal bartender would do. They'd say something like, "Sir, this is a Wendy's. Please leave." So this is where we intercut the fight with Perry and young Wayne. He's got his 2 street toughs there. And at the same time, old Wayne, who's taking space dust, is now seeing what's happening through young Wayne. So now we're like crossing timelines and interacting, which maybe they hinted at this, I think, between Autumn and Amy, maybe? Am I misremembering that? Like the eyes go dark? But they definitely do it here with Wayne and young Wayne, right?
Yeah, this is even if Amy and Autumn's like eyes go dark, they seemingly happened at the same moment in time. Like, but now this is Wayne being able to tap into his younger self and then eventually figure out that Perry is traveling through time and has his epiphany or whatever. But again, I couldn't just help but think of just the mass amount of felonies we continue to get in these episodes, where Royal, he shows up hot to the scene and just shoots a dude in the leg, which is great, and then points the gun right at Royal, or at Wayne. It's just this town has become very murderous.
Yeah, he shoots him with a revolver. I don't think that's a small round. That guy on the ground is like, "I'm okay. It's just a leg wound. I'll be fine. Help me. I want to go dance and play pool." Like, no, Royal, I mean, it's the 80s, but I'm pretty sure a cop is maybe going to ask Royal a couple of questions about why he shot a dude. But who knows what the open carry and gun laws is in Wabang at that time. It's the Wild West, you know? He'd just be like, "Oh, they were robbing a bank, and I deputized myself, so I shot him in the leg."
But we do get this quick line again really quick, I think, before we jump to the next scene, of them introducing a mechanic about ears ringing, right? And with both of us having tinnitus or tinnitus, whatever, we understand that holes are apparently open up all the time over the world because
they're closing, constantly. Tom, you and I are constantly experiencing time holes closing. Because our ears ring.
Yeah, I don't get introducing a new mechanic at this point. Like, it just, it kind of took me out a little bit. Like, we didn't need this.
Yeah, well, this is then them letting Perry know, hey, a hole is back. If a hole is closing, because it's, I think it's Royal. He's like, "Oh, that happened when like the hole closed or something like that. So now this gives us Perry at the hole. And I gotta be honest, have we talked about the actor that plays Perry?
I don't think so, not much.
I really like him. I think in a show that's not, he's minor character. We don't get a ton of him, and I know I've called him Sad Sack Perry. I really like him as an actor. I hope he's in a bunch of things, and I will probably...
I probably should have thought about it before I said it out loud. Ozark. That was like one of his big roles, at least that I knew him from.
Okay.
He plays kind of a similar character, with like a haunted past kind of thing, but Tom Pelfrey is his name.
Got it. I believe he is married to Kaylee Kuko in real life, the Big Bang Theory person.
Oh, okay.
So, with all... And this has been Julian and Tom's Celebrity Gossip Corner. I like him. I think he's great. They're like, all right, you're at the hole, cook. And he's like fiddling with his wedding ring. He's like looking through it. And the show's like, great, more holes. We've got a ring you're looking through. There's a hole in the ground. So many holes. Hopefully people aren't looking for the plot holes in the show because there's a ton of those as well. But I want to point out that he says Amy had a lisp when she was a kid. And you weren't grandpa, you were Gwampa. He delivered that line with a straight face. And I was like, whew, folks, what? Who wrote this? This is supposed to be like his Emmy Award-winning moment, and you made him say Gwampa because the kid had a lisp. I almost turned the show off. I was like, that was... Part of me hopes the actor wasn't like, listen, guys, I've got a line for this moment. And they're like, sure, man, cook. I don't... It was... Did you quack Gwampa?
It was laughable. Yeah, when I heard it. Like, I get what they're doing. They're trying to create this like heartfelt moment between the two, and it was just, yeah, it fell very, very flat for me. And I just don't understand. Like, if Perry sees this hole, like, what is he waiting for? Like, wouldn't he just jump in immediately?
Exactly. He's like, oh, I just care about my kid. I just care about my kid. Oh, the hole's here? He's like, I don't know. The 80s is pretty rad, you know? We don't know how terrible
punch people,
smoking
shoot
and
people,
cocaine
no
is
problem.
for us. You can punch and shoot people. Like, I don't know. This town's pretty awesome. I can make sports bets and win them. I jump in the hole, Perry, you dumb idiot. So, all right. Let's cut to our favorite. Billy's awake, and he's going to live a long, fruitful life, and he's doing great.
Did you notice? I didn't like notate what they were, but there was a lot of fantastic wall art where I feel like they were like, I don't know, like a cow, like an anthropomorphic cow, like hanging out or cooking or something. Like there's a lot of fantastic art that Billy has in his room.
When you say wall art, you just mean like paintings on the wall? I don't know that other than dead owls, I don't know what wall art means, Tom. Like,
yeah, art. That's on the wall. Yeah, painting. They're essentially paintings. I don't know if they're originals. I'm hoping they're originals because that would be really filling Billy's backstory. But
wait, isn't Wayne the one that? Is it
Wayne
or Wayne? Am I messing up his name?
Wayne. It was Wayne in the outline. I had to change it a bunch of times.
Oh, thank you, good sir. Isn't he the one that likes weird erotica? Am I making that up? Okay.
Yeah, gets his ticker going.
Yeah. Okay.
So maybe this is part of the weird erotica. We weren't close enough to see it, but
no, I remember clocking it. All these paintings are someone came in from the church group and was like, we got to cover these up. And so they drew all over
the little leaves over the
certain
areas.
Parts. All right. Speaking of parts and things to draw leaves over, the boys are fighting over Autumn. Autumn has leaves, Tom. That segue was incredible. There is a moment, Tom. I don't know if you clocked it, but Billy is standing. He sits in his wheelchair. He slowly rolls over to Luke, like literally bumps knees with him, and then slowly stands up and their noses are practically touching.
So close.
And I lost my mind. I was like, how Luke, the actor, whoever plays him, did not just start laughing. It was like comically close, like so close. And then it makes sense because Billy's fighting is to hug someone to death. He's going to squeeze him with love. But when he rolled up to him and then stood up. And Luke does it. Any normal human, you step back. You're like, hey, you are in my personal space. You're being weird. I don't care if you're a close talker. I'm stepping backwards. He does not. Billy is just in his face. And I laughed so hard because it was incredible.
I just thought they're going to do like a cute little Eskimo kiss and go like, boop.
Boop.
Great.
Yep, butterfly. Do a little bit of that. They do kind of Eskimo kiss. Luke kills him with a fire poker.
I mean, I guess they teased this because he had a fire poker on him earlier, right? And then decided not to kill his brother in his sleep. He's going to kill his brother when he's awake.
Sure.
Like
He
a
wants
real,
to look
like a
him
real
in his
good
eyes.
brother.
Look him in his dead eyes when he's an inch away from him. Yep.
But what is it? Is it fratricide? Is that when a brother kills brother?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get it, man. Like, Billy was such a standout and good character and actor and everything in the first season to just, like, okay, cool, you're going to bring him back after you seemingly killed him. Like, you're going to bring him back for a purpose and have him, join the plot. But all he was just a catalyst for Luke. And even Luke, like, we haven't really fleshed out his motivation and his reason for this. Like,
He's
I don't get why you
he's
would.
the overlooked brother. He's the overlooked brother. Listen.
Is that enough for you to kill your, like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, I get, it's all just visions. It's visions on top of visions, and that's what's driving every single character as opposed to just what is going on in reality.
Tom, I don't expect the youngest brother out of a group of brothers to understand, but us middle brothers, being a middle brother and being overlooked, it leads us to beat people to death with fire pokers. I'm not going to say I've done it, but dangerously close. I like to think the actor that plays Billy got the call, and they were like, hey, Schitt's Creek is being made into a movie. We need you. And he was like, please kill me with some sort of blunt object because I'm not showing up for season 3. And the director was like, none of us are showing up for season 3, man. I got bad news for you.
I don't think I ever noted this, but the actor's name is Noah Reed, and I think I had mentioned in a previous pod, like one of the songs that he sings is apparently a song. I don't know if it's an original by Noah Reed, but Noah Reed, like, he sang one of the songs, and I think maybe the one when he was doing he had the hitchhiking is the red outfit, maybe that one. I can't remember, but yeah, Noah Reed is a talent.
I'm sorry, you're saying the actor has a musical career?
I believe so. I don't know. I haven't done enough to actually research it, but I remember when I called out Noah Reed as like singing the song in one of our previous pods for this season. My wife's like, "You realize Noah Reed is that actor?" I'm like, "Oh, no way."
Man, our wives are so smart.
True.
They should probably do this pod instead of us. Also, I'm assuming Noah Reed is the lead singer of Live, and so he also wrote and sang Dolphins Cry and Throwing Copper, the album. When he is killed by this, the way they shot this, Tom, you and I have both seen Equilibrium. There is a death in Equilibrium that is eerily similar, although a face doesn't slide off, than the way that Billy is killed in this. And I just thought, like, okay, they're doing a thing here. When he's looking at him, and he's like, Billy? And then Billy, like, slowly turns his face so that he's like, hey, camera, see how I'm, Equilibrium. Anyways.
Yeah, it was relatively like PG, right? Like it was just kind of a hit in the side of the face, got him in the temple, and it messed up his brains or whatever. But yeah, it gives that slow, painful, just hard to watch fall to the ground.
Yeah. This is definitely PG. I've been letting my kids watch it with us. They're not yet 10, so yeah. Good parenting on me. I'm the Wayne Tillerson of parenting. All right. Joy and Royal talk on the phone. Joy just needs someone to talk to. Guess who that person isn't? It's Royal.
Yeah, he doesn't have time for it. She's like pleading for help, and he's not giving it to her.
No. He's not helpful in the least. That actress is phenomenal, by the way. I hope she does dozens of other things. It's fun to watch her. Maria and Rhett show up, and Maria's like, hey, Autumn threatened me at the bank. And Rhett's like, I'm just here because Maria's attractive. And Cecilia apologizes for being mean to Maria, I guess, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like Royal was the one that was a bit more kind of a jerk to Maria the last time we saw her. Cecilia was just kind of like essentially quiet at the table. But again, I'm going to say it again. Like they clearly clocked her, asking her for water, going close up to the sink and her pouring water for her. I don't get why they're doing all these water things, and I just want to clock it because if something does come from it, they played it pretty heavy. If nothing comes from it, I don't know what they're doing.
Tom, you haven't clocked people drinking water and leaving water glasses around since you watched M. Night Shyamalan's Signs, the masterpiece starring one Mel Gibson and Joaquin Phoenix.
Yep.
I actually watched that movie recently. Still holds up. It's a good time.
It is a good movie.
I was surprised at how much I enjoyed, rewatching it, even though you know the twist and everything.
Yeah, that was the Shama Prime. Now it's not so good.
Yes.
He hasn't made a good one for a while.
Yes.
He has a new one coming out though, which I've also heard is garbage, but I'll probably watch it.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I haven't watched any of the new ones. Okay, so let's finish the penultimate episode of this TV show, which Luke and Autumn get in that sweet F-150 and they're headed to Amy. I think Cecilia and Royal are also concerned with Amy, and so we're heading to, I believe, some sort of climax or finale, as they call it, where they're all going to meet up and find Amy, and Amy's just going to be eating ice cream at Dippy's.
And she's like, I'm cool. I'm with my mom. I love my mom. I'm just gonna stay here.
Right, like I'm supposed to. And Wayne has some sort of weird vision, and he's like, something's happened to Billy. He's no longer singing.
My vocal cords are tingling.
Yeah. So lot to wrap up at a finale for a show that is
serious finale.
All over the place as this. But Tom, it's been quite a journey. Quite a journey.
I mean, again, even at the end here, they're still adding more things that we didn't know existed of Wayne being able to connect to Billy. But I don't know, maybe you can make an argument because they're all now doing the space dust. They have some sort of psychic connection and Wayne knows that Billy's gone. I don't know, but I don't think we'll get an answer for it. I don't feel like this was a fantastic penultimate episode. It didn't really set up a whole lot outside of, I guess, everybody going to see Amy. And I'm kind of bummed because there's just knowing that there is not a third season and knowing that this last hour is going to be it, I don't think there's any sort of way that you can satisfyingly conclude not just this season, but the story as a whole.
Right. So, once again, I go back to what questions am I trying to solve in the finale? And it's like, great, they're all headed to Amy. Is Amy going to get hurt? And so then she becomes Autumn. What's with the cult in the future? What's with all of the lights set up around the hole that Brolin runs from in that one episode? Right. Does this all just reset? Do we, some sort of time magic, Cronus shows up and he's like, I am Cronus. I love time. Go back to the way things were. And there's this awkward moment where Child Royal, his gun jams, and his dad's like, did you just try and shoot me? And he's like, no, Papa, I'm also racist. And the dad's like, good, I love you again, son, because I am also racist. This is one of those weird shows where I almost wish the hourglass thing will break during it and everything will reset and the show will just be like, none of these events happened because it all went back to normal. And I'd be like, all right, I'm fine with that, because there's just so much that they have to clear up, and I feel like we're headed towards a messy conclusion as opposed to a satisfying, nice conclusion.
Well, and I feel like the start of the season was still a fun ride. It was fun to get back. They had some interesting storyline and some story elements, but I feel like even the Joy episode, although it was a good episode, it was fun to watch her character. It just didn't further the main plot, it slowed things down, and then now they're just seemingly rushing through everything, making up kind of rules as they go, solving parts of the big mystery of the house and everything else just in the swipe of a line in the script. It just didn't work for me quite as much, and I was bummed because we bought it in the first season and had a blast with it, and there's a handful of folks that kind of joined us for the journey. We were excited to see what would come from season 2. But just didn't have that same timey-wimey fun as the first season did.
That's fair. I'm going to predict 10 years from now, this show is going to have a resurgence, and everyone's going to love it, and they're going to be digging their own holes in their yard, and then they're going to be posting, I don't know if Instagram's still going to be around. It'll probably be bought by one of the political parties, so it'll be like Instagram sponsored by, I don't know, libertarians. So I'm predicting we are on the right side of history, Tom, by talking about this show and that it's going to come back. 6 seasons in a movie, as they like to say. Is there anything we need to predict for the finale? I don't feel like there's anything we can confidently say. We just need to dive into it and finish this.
Yeah,
we need to
I feel
shoot
like
this cow in the head, right?
Yeah, throw it in the hole. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess you can have some predictions for what they've done in this season, but I'm just so much more interested in where they went in the first season with some of the things that they set up, especially like you mentioned Royal, the countdown clock and all that stuff. There's just no way they're going to be able to touch on that.
No.
I feel like they were trying to do a little bit too much to set up more seasons when they should have just kept things simple and tight and, know that a show like this is probably going to struggle to find an audience. And it was great that it got a second season, but they probably should have tightened the script up a little bit more.
Sure. Well, for those of you that have joined us through this journey, thank you. You all earn yourselves a large ranch in Wyoming. You can reach out to us with your thoughts and prayers at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. It was great to hear from people. Brandon, thanks for reaching out. And Tom, when we come back, we're going to talk about the finale of this show. Obviously, we've loved every moment and we're super excited. What other things did I forget to mention that is important that our audience knows?
Yeah, don't forget our socials at Team Binge or at Team Binge Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. We have tweeted out the next show that we plan on doing, which is Bad Monkey with Vince Vaughn on Apple TV+. I don't know much about it, in all honesty. I haven't even watched the trailer yet, but I think you did, and you said it would be like a fun murder mystery kind of thing. It seemed funny. It's got Bill Lawrence, who did Ted Lasso, one of our first pods that we kind of covered. So if you've kind of enjoyed our coverage here, we're going to probably start that up next week when it releases on August 14th. So stay tuned for that.
Tom, I apologize. I have led you astray. Bad Monkey is a documentary about the Ben & Jerry's flavor Bad Monkey and how they make it. It's a 20-episode documentary about that flavor of ice cream. So
I'd pot on it.
I don't know where I'd pot on it. We're going to pot on it while eating it. No, you're right. It's a Bill Lawrence who did Ted Lasso and Scrubs, and Vince Vaughn, as mentioned. And I read the book, and that's why I think it'll be a good time. It is a bit of a comedy and a bit of a murder mystery. I don't know how they're going to do it, but the source material was fun. So Look forward to talking about that. We will be back for the finale for Team Binge. I have been Julian.
And I have been Sad Sack Tom. Till next time, everybody.